Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We're going to be exploring the nature and flow of qi. According to the teachings of ancient Chinese medicine and combined with the understanding of Zen as practiced by our guest today, Rob Renehan. Rob is a Tsang practitioner here in New York City, and he's combined his work with this ancient organ qi massage system with his practice of many years of Zen. He sat Zazen in countries across the world, from the Czech Republic to Poland to Korea, elsewhere as well, and has visited Zen centers everywhere. And when he returned to the United States, he studied Taoist practices with Michael Wynn and Karen Sorvik, where he learned Tsang and other Taoist Qigong practices and the like. And he has blended these all together to become a system of working with the body's qi, energy system, both on an emotional and physical level, so that everything becomes harmonious and flowing and smooth and energizing, creating great vitality, happiness actually, and an inner sense of balance and peace. I know because I have experienced some of Rob's work, and that's why I wanted to invite him onto the show today to speak with us about this work, which is very particular, very powerful, and very useful for a lot of people who may have different matters going on with them physically or emotionally, because from the Chinese point of view, really, there isn't much of a difference. Everything is happening on a continuum. So we're really glad to have you today, Rob, on the show.
Thank you. It's very nice to have me here. Thank you.
Good, good. So look, why don't we just start with, like, how come you got into this? I mean, you know, some people become stockbrokers, and some people become bankers, and some people become artists. What is it that attracted you to what you're doing?
I think it was when I was young, when I was in my teenage years. I thought about, you know, all the problems that existed in the world, and I thought about, where does this all come from? And in my exploration and inquiry, I found that it all comes from an imbalance with mind and body, and also an imbalance with the connection to something bigger than us. So
so true.
Yeah. So I found that passion early on,
Yeah.
and I decided, in the beginning I did a lot of self-training. You know, I would journal a lot and try to understand my mind, and, you know, I went into a counseling psychology program in college, got a master's degree, and started practicing with, you know, clients and patients. And then I realized that I wanted to go deeper, so I decided to specialize in spiritual psychology, and that's how I ended up in the monasteries and practicing Zazen.
I see. Our lives have run a really interesting parallel, actually, because I was one of those inquiring, inquisitive minds too. How did it get this way?
Right,
I mean,
right.
How many times do adults have to make mistakes for us to get these kinds of results?
Right,
you know?
right.
So, and I also went into counseling and clinical psychology on a graduate level.
Wow.
So it's very interesting, and I was very involved with more Tibetan Buddhism, but also to some extent Zen and the Gurdjieff work and Tai Chi Chuan, actually.
Right.
So
right.
but I hear that you were processing the world, yourself.
Absolutely.
And world.
Absolutely.
Journalizing. That was
Yes.
my life. It's
Yes.
interesting. And now look, I'm still actually at the same thing. I just have changed the means of production.
Absolutely.
You know? So that's really interesting. So that was the trajectory, the pivot,
Right.
the cause, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. And so you've been deepening your psychological work, psychotherapeutic work, with your understanding of Chinese energetics.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
feel like I'm talking to myself, but yes, I understand, Rob. Yeah. And so the work you're doing now, just tell us a little bit about what is Tsang.
Okay, Tsang, as you know, as you experienced in the session, it's about working with the Dantian. The Dantian is that space in between the navel and the spine, and the perineum and the solar plexus level. It's that whole abdominal cavity. So that's your energy center. So this energy center this energy that comes from this place travels through meridians throughout the body. And Tsang works with this energy center to help the chi to flow through these different meridians so that the organs can stay healthy. Because anytime you get blockage or stagnation or deficiency, you'll have illness or disease.
Yes.
So that's in a nutshell what Tsang is.
In a nutshell. So the thing that distinguishes it then from acupuncture, or I should say acupressure, is, how would you describe that?
Well, it's different from acupuncture in that...
I mean, obviously because you're not using needles.
Right, it's hands-on.
Right.
And it's very deep tissue work sometimes, especially in the abdominal area.
Yeah.
And it's different from acupressure. From what I know of acupressure, it's only doing the points. And
and following meridians.
Right. So it actually, Tsang includes acupressure, but it goes even more. The scope is even bigger because you're actually doing some massage work as well, some body work in the abdomen and around the body.
Where you're working not just with the energy systems, but you're also working with the organs themselves.
Well, that's one part, and then the other part is you're working with what we call the Shen in Chinese medicine, or the mind. So you're working with three things. You're working with the mind.
Heart-mind.
Right, the heart-mind. You're working with the mind, the qi, and the jing. Jing is body.
Okay. Could you say a little bit more about jing? Because jing is more than body.
Right. Jing is, in terms of translation, we would say it's essence.
Right.
And this essence is what creates the physical body. So there is a distinction between body and jing. When you die, your body goes to earth, but your jing returns to heaven.
Yes, yes.
So it's part of the soul, the human soul.
Exactly.
And that's what I work with.
And it's also ancestral.
Yes.
In nature.
Right.
So it's the carry over and carry through of the generational essence.
Right.
Where we are similar to and carrying the energy of our parents, grandparents, and before.
That's right, and a lot of the Tsang work has to, you deal with that, the ancestral stuff.
Yeah.
Because we bring so much of that in our lives, and actually it's a big part of our lives. A lot of our constitutional imbalances is because of our ancestors' experiences, thousands and thousands of years. So we're learning how to process and integrate that in our own life right now.
Yep.
You'll find that a lot with anxiety attacks. Like you'll find that with anxiety attacks, lots of relatives have had this. So it's not necessarily anything that happened in this lifetime, that causes anxiety attack. Maybe you had an environment that contributed to that, but more or less you're experiencing what your ancestors experienced, and you're working to find that completion and that healing for them as well.
Exactly. Now, I'm really glad, Rob, that you're bringing that up, because most people don't understand quite what the relationship is between us as we exist today, phenomenologically, so to speak,
right,
and our narrative,
right,
our history.
Right.
And our history is living in us moment by moment. And it is through the ancestors, which is why all indigenous peoples always had tremendous respect and reverence for the ancestors.
Right.
And even if they couldn't stand their relatives, they would
right,
always treat them with the greatest respect, because they know that the energy has come to them.
Absolutely.
And they have to neutralize and work with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So you see it show up a lot in the
every
area of anxiety, but elsewhere.
Yeah, depression, anger. Anger is another big one I see a lot with my clients. They all come with some form of anger. And I noticed that it's usually because of the relationship with their parents, and also their parents' relationship with their parents. And it goes back endlessly. Yeah. And this, is carried through the family line.
Yeah.
So I would say the majority of my work, I work with a lot of physical symptoms, but a lot of my clients have been attracted to this work because it's so effective on a psychological, deeper level, the constitutional level, problems or imbalances they've had their whole life. And, they've been to therapists, and, they've tried all different modalities, but they find that Tsang gives them a deeper relationship to these what I would call core imbalances or constitutional imbalances. It helps them, find the wisdom, helps them find the process to go through that. to find a completion.
Very interesting. What we find is that what we think belongs to us, I'm just translating a little bit from English to English, which is to say, but originally Chinese, the idea that these phenomena, these emotional reactions of anxiety, depression, anger, hysteria, whatever the case may be, really aren't ours as such.
Absolutely.
They just aren't. Yet we are the recipient. We talk about this a lot in psychology as well as total biology, where we are the recipient of the energy of the family lineage, the family tree, the ancestry.
Right.
And we can literally track who in the ancestry had what kind of reaction that we are actually today cellularly embodying.
Absolutely.
And so here you are working with the cells and the chi flow directly to work with that, as well as, I imagine, some verbal guidance.
Yes, we call that Shengong. Instead of Qigong, Qigong means energy work, and Shengong means mind work. And it's, sometimes there's dialogue. It's appropriate during the sessions. Most of the time it's energy and body work, but sometimes things come up and need to be processed, so there's some dialogue.
Yeah. Well, what kind of results have you seen? What have you seen in your clients?
Because most of my clients have come because of, emotional or psychological kind of complaints or symptoms, I've seen a lot of results in terms of that. I'll give you an example. I have a client currently that came to me about 4 months ago and was experiencing a lot of anger, a lot of hatred, and especially towards her parents. And in addition to that, she also lacked faith or lacked trust in life. There was something she never felt like she could trust. She couldn't trust life. And I just had a session with her today, and we were just sharing how far she's gone. I mean, when I first worked on her, her abdomen was like a rock. It was so hard. And just by, doing gentle spiral movements, on the abdomen. Yeah, sometimes. The beginning's gentle. It gets a little deeper.
It's not always gentle.
In the beginning, it's gentle. Okay. I know you had a different treatment.
We'll start over.
But over time, after doing the deeper work, the more painful work, she released a lot of energy.
Yes, go ahead.
She felt the anger being released, the hatred being released, and was experiencing something she never could experience before, which was, love and compassion for these people. And she's still going through the process right now, and I'm helping, guide her, because it's been very difficult for her. But, when you work on the abdomen and you work on these points on the chest, it just causes serious release. And if the person is willing to, that's another important thing with Qinei Tsang. Qinei Tsang is a teamwork. It's teamwork. It's a relationship. So I wouldn't even call myself a healer, because that would be incorrect. Because it's more that I'm a facilitator, and when I place my hands on someone, it's actually the two people become one. It's like something opens up to something bigger. I mean, I know that sounds mystical and everything, but it really isn't. It's very down to earth. It's very, when you experience this, you're in the moment.
It's earth mysticism.
It's very down to earth. You just feel like you're so much in your body, but you're letting go of your ideas and your thinking. And this portal opens up, and this relationship is what creates the healing. So if someone comes to me and wants help, but isn't willing to do the work, then nothing will happen. Because I'm not interested in doing black magic.
Right.
I'm interested in doing white magic, which means that there's, a partnership, there's love, and respecting someone's free will and choice. So when there's a relationship, things happen. It's powerful.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So she has been, with your assistance, facilitation, letting go of that very old pattern.
Yes.
That has really, in a sense, in some ways destroyed a lot of her life.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, we don't really like to think about things that way, but if you really get down to the fabric of what our belief systems are and the way they govern our moment-to-moment reality.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
how we navigate through the rocky shoals of life. It's because we're either trusting that across the next shoal is going to be a rainbow, or it's going to be more horror.
Right.
You know, that belief system is
Right.
our perception, you know.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. So she's gotten through that. What? Anything else you'd like to share with
Yeah,
us?
I mean, there's another client that was more, she came to me with a physical complaint. She reported that she was feeling a lot of exhaustion. She's a mother, and
No wonder.
she has a 2-year-old child, and the child is always, you know, waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And she has to get up, and, you know, she also works during the day, so she's always exhausted. So she asked me if we could do something about it, and I said, sure. And when we worked on the abdomen, we worked on the kidneys, because when the when the kidneys don't get enough sleep, or there's a lot of stress, the kidneys are taxed and you feel exhausted. So in this particular treatment, we focused on tonifying the kidneys, and there's particular points on the abdomen where you work on that, especially on a deep level. It can be very painful, but also very enjoyable afterwards. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
And
well, the kidney meridian runs in part
the kidney
through the
meridian,
abdomen.
right, absolutely. So, and I also go in the back and actually massage the kidney. You know, I really work into it. And we work with color sometimes, and contemplating on the virtue of the kidneys, which is gentleness and peace.
Yes.
So she's actually...
the antidote to fear and anxiety.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And she was actually very surprised, because she's an acupuncturist. So she never thought that hands-on work could do this. And, you know, she's been with me the longest. She's been with me for 8 months. And I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I mean, she really enjoys it. I mean, she feels really charged. Usually she's out of her body because she has, you know, she's, you know, not getting enough sleep. So she feels like she's not always here. But after these sessions, she says she feels so present in her body. She feels charged. And we meet every week so that she can, you know, cultivate this energy. But I'll tell you, if it wasn't for her and me as a relationship, none of this would have happened.
Sure.
Because, you know, it's not me. I want to make sure I make that clear.
Yes.
It's the relationship. Of course, I come with skill and experience and my own cultivation inside. But when two people come together, this is power.
Yeah.
That's much bigger than each individual.
Yeah, right. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. In fact, because you mentioned about kidney and, you know, gentleness and all that. So, according to 5-element theory, which is not so much a theory, but it's certainly a real part of Chinese medicine, with your prior client who is dealing with an anger problem, anger is the emotional correspondence to liver and gallbladder.
Right.
So were you also in that case working with her directly on liver?
I have. No? You know, it's interesting with Chinese medicine. There's so many theories, and I found it, you know, useful to pick and choose sometimes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I use 5-element theory, but I noticed that the 8 extraordinary vessel theory, which I don't know if we have time to go into right now.
Please, go into, yeah.
The 8 extraordinary vessel theory I found to be more useful for psycho-spiritual, emotional kind of issues, because the 8 extraordinary vessels is what's connected to Source, or God, or you know, something bigger than us. I don't know.
The larger chi field.
Right. And you know, let me just break it down for you real quick.
Please.
So we're all connected to Source. We all come from something bigger than us, right? And that gets funneled through us through our abdomen. We call that the lower dantian in Chinese medicine. Okay. And from the
which literally means, by the way, elixir field.
That's right.
So
from the perineum up through the center of the body, up to what we call Bai Wei, the crown of your head, is called the Chengmai, the thrusting vessel. So that's in between the spine and in front of the body. It runs up the core. Okay, so that's your core channel. That's where we would say your soul resides in Taoist medicine or Chinese medicine. So out of that Chengmai channel comes the other 7 channels. So you have the Du Mai, which goes up the spine and comes down the front of the nose.
Du Mai, Du Mo.
Du Mo, right. And then you have the Ren Mai, which you know, begins on the other side, down by the perineum, and goes up to the nose. And the Du Mai and Ren Mai connect
Also known as conception vessel.
Right, conception vessel. Right. So conception vessel is the channel in the front, governor channel is in the back.
Right.
And then we got the Tsang Mai in the middle. So already that's 3 channels.
Right.
They're all coming from the Tsang Mai. Then we got this girdle vessel, or Dai Mai, which wraps around the waist. Okay, that's 4. And then we got the leg and arm channels. We have the Yang Chao Mai, which runs up the side of the legs. We got the Yin Chao Mai, which runs up the inside of the legs. And then we have the Yin Wei and Yang Wei Mai vessels, which also pretty much have that same pathway. So it's the whole body, integrates the whole body. This is even before the meridians, the traditional 12 meridians. And they're actually deeper. They contain more qi and blood. And I found when you work specifically in 8 extraordinary vessels, you get deeper results, more impactful results.
Yes.
Because you're working with the soul. You're working with your connection with Source or God or whatever word you want to use. And this kind of modality, the 8 extraordinary vessels, helps you, process and experience what your soul needs to bring in this lifetime. So I do a lot of life coaching as well with this Jine Sun, because things come up in these experiences. Soul wants to manifest something. I mean, that's the meaning of life. We're here to perform certain tasks. So sometimes, if someone isn't able to be a monk,
and to embody certain values.
Absolutely.
A certain character, if you
Right.
will, certain virtues.
Right. So it's very deep, this 8 extraordinary vessel.
So a lot of what ends up happening, I understand then, Rob, is that the work you do with Jine Tsang, as combined with your background in Zen and psychology, is to help to align people to their soul. And ultimately what that means is once you've connected to that source of oneself,
Yes.
to the crying, yearning expression of the soul, i.e. soul purpose.
Right.
So stuff comes up because people see, I imagine, where they are and they see where they might be able to be.
Right.
And so there's some tension, disparity in there.
Right.
And you help them connect to
Right. That's
living
why
closer to soul.
That's why I called my company Cultivating Destiny, because that's what I feel
Beautiful.
like I'm helping facilitate, is helping people cultivate what they're meant to do in this lifetime.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people, when I go on the subway and I look into people, I see a lot of people sad and depressed because they're not manifesting what needs to manifest. And sometimes, they tell themselves that this is the way life is.
Right.
And it's so sad because,
It's a story.
Yeah, it's some story. Maybe they're in a marriage that doesn't serve them, or maybe they're in some job that doesn't serve them.
Right.
But they convince themselves to stay there for a variety of reasons.
Right.
It's most of it's because of security reasons.
Right.
But if they only knew what was on the other side, what the big picture was for them, they would be so inspired.
And conversely, those people who are living more connected to their heart and their soul purpose they don't work.
Yes.
They
That's
just
right.
live.
That's right. It's a good
Do you know
way
what I
to
mean?
put
It's
it.
not work.
It's all play.
Yeah, it's like, It's like,
Yes.
what are we going to do today?
Yes.
It's like a big playpen.
Right.
I feel like I live in a playpen.
Right.
It's not totally that way, but, it really has that energy. It's like,
Yes.
what am I going to make today? What's my Play-Doh,
Right. Right.
I know what you mean. So you also have, and I just want to get this point across to people, that you really have this really finely tuned energy field yourself to pick up on the flow as well as the stagnation
Yes.
of chi in the
Yes.
body. I experienced this myself when you
Yes.
were kind of reading me with your hands
Yes.
and sensing. And I just will share with the audience that you did share something with me about my liver that was like extra large, and that, it has a lot of work to do, a lot of processing to do. Also my heart, which also has a lot of processing to do, but also even some gradations of veiling, if you will. And you worked with me very deeply, and yes. 2 weeks
With you, it's a
later.
little bit more deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, no, I felt, the work that you did, but it was really interesting to me that you were able to pick up on things that I also kind of knew about myself through my own work with myself and other sessions I've had with others, it coincided, stuff I read about myself on the life system and the feedback system that I use,
Right.
because I don't have hands of that level developed to read exactly that way. So I've been very impressed with your
thank you.
skill set in terms of picking up on that energy. So, but when you work with people, I mean, you have this one woman, an acupuncturist, who has a particular enjoyment of what you're doing and getting obvious benefit. But you also work with, you do like maybe, what's a common number of sessions that you might do with somebody?
Well, it's been averaging about 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah, I mean, more or less. Sometimes if I get someone that just has constipation, it might just be a session.
I see.
Or diarrhea, it just might be
yeah.
a session or two. But people are so inspired by this modality. After they get one session, they want to keep coming back.
Very cool.
So it's been an average about 3 months.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure to have you on and to get more educated about the nature of Tsang and its mixture with Zen in you, and I just think that you're doing a lot of good work for people and with people. And
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. And if people want to reach you, why don't you say your phone number and website, and we'll also put it on the show.
My website is www.cultivatingdestiny.com, and my phone number is 917-450-7835, or you can also email me at info@cultivatingdestiny.com.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rob. This is Mitchell J. Rabin. I'm very glad you're joining us again today, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.